Welcome to another episode. I'm super excited because today is a live on-air coaching call, and I have Michelle here from Foot Traffic Formula. So Michelle is one of my clients, and she is in the program working through some things, and once in a while we bring our students on here to work through some problems together so you can see what it's like when you're actually working with a coach, working through our program. So Michelle, welcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So, Michelle, I obviously know you. I get to talk with you weekly inside of the program. But for those people that are just catching us, can you explain what your business is? And then we'll work through today, like what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I am a psychologist and I provide therapy and coaching services specifically for moms. I'm a mom myself, so I get the whole struggle of being a working mom. And basically, I help moms, just normal, regular, everyday moms who are trying to kind of balance everything. I help them manage their anxiety, overwhelm, and stress so that they can be the moms that they really want to be.
Yeah. And with what we're talking about today, you specifically want to talk about creating an online group coaching program.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just briefly talk about this. So you were doing in-person work where you live, correct?
Yeah, so I was doing in-person work. I was doing half and half. I was
Okay.
doing 50% in person and then 50% online sessions.
Okay.
But prior to this, I was only doing therapy,
Yeah.
which for many people, therapy is just expensive and it's just out. They're just not able to access it.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking to be able to broaden, my horizons to allow more people to get access to my services through online group coaching because
Yeah.
it's obviously more cost effective. And then there's also a sense of community with the other moms too.
Definitely. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what is your question that you brought today?
So my first question is, and it's like a
Yeah.
billion questions in one,
Perfect.
but basically, I really would like kind of a blueprint or a roadmap to organizing a group coaching program. So I've
Okay.
never done this before. This will be the first time, and I have some ideas about how I want to structure it. But I really want to know from obviously somebody who does this and has been doing it for a long time, what are the components that I should be considering? What's good in terms of structure?
Yeah.
Even things like if my goal is to have X number of people, how much, outreach do I need to do to kind of get, people in and all of that. So I'm looking for a blueprint first because one of my problems is that I want to do everything. I'm like a
Yes.
typical mom. I want to do everything. And then sometimes I get paralyzed and do nothing because it's just too overwhelming. So I need
Yeah.
kind of that guide.
Yeah, which is very, very common. So
Yeah.
the good thing is, I literally had this conversation this morning with somebody on my team. I always tell
Hmm.
people if you want to sell something, go buy something like it. So you're
Yep.
in Foot Traffic Formula. So when
Right.
you
Right.
said, I already have some ideas, I'm assuming you've already started to be like, I like this. I don't really
Yeah.
like that. I would
Or
do
like
it
this would
this
work.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
This would work. This wouldn't. So for everybody listening, that is one of the best things I can always say. Like if you want to go, sell a book, create a mastermind, go buy those things and start
Yeah.
to assess what you like and what you don't. So Michelle, you've got that step number one down. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great. Now, have you been in anything else besides Foot Traffic Formula? You don't have to say the product, but have you ever been in another group coaching program besides mine?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So another good thing, because I also don't want you thinking like, I've done one, so now I'm good.
Yeah.
What if
Yeah.
you've done one, but it's just not the style that you appreciate, or you think everybody does it like this, and no, not
Right.
everybody does it. That person just did it.
Yeah, so that's what
Great.
happened with the first group coaching program that I was in. I just wasn't my vibe. It wasn't working for me. And
Okay.
now being at Foot Traffic, that feels like a lot more of what I
Okay,
need.
cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
like that you can even start to look at others, right? It's good
Yeah.
to have a few people that you're researching just so you
Right.
can start to be like, okay, I can take a mix, and you don't start to copy the first person. If you only went to the
Right.
first person and thought, this is how I have to do it, then that's the problem. So I like that you're starting to be able to mold it to be what you want specifically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with the group coaching program, what you're thinking about actually setting up right now, the blueprint or structure, this is the biggest thing that I can tell you. Are you going to be doing it where it is what we call like evergreen, always rolling, or are you going to start and stop it where they have to join at a specific start and stop time?
Yeah, start and stop.
Okay. So,
Hmm.
let me just explain pros and cons to that. So, start and stop, I think, is good in the beginning when you're like getting it going and you're testing things out.
Hmm.
Eventually, that's bad for retention because people
Yeah.
just stop. So, if you're ever
Right.
wondering why you're getting 8-week clients, it's because you have an 8-week program, right?
Mhm.
It's like common sense. Why does everybody leave the dance studio after 10 months? It's a 10-month school year. Like it
Yeah.
naturally, we've told them it's over,
Right.
you know? So,
Yeah.
so understand that whatever you put out there is going to happen. But I do
Yeah.
believe in the beginning, it is good to test it that way. So if people come to me now and they see foot traffic formula, they might want to copy it right away, that model. But what they don't see is a year prior to that, I was running 90-day programs, 8-week
Yeah.
programs. I was
Right.
testing it. And I will tell you the mistakes that I made. Maybe I promised something and then I'm like, oh, I promised too much. Like, this is going to kill me if I had to keep this up. If you just launch a 12-month program or an ongoing membership, you probably will overpromise. And then when you go to make those changes, your people will not be happy. Does that make sense? So
Mm-hmm.
I think for you, testing these in smaller groups, but even going into it, maybe saying to people, this is a lesson learned that I didn't get to do. I would even go into it saying, like, you may want to do 2 or 3 rounds of this, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like, get it in their head, like, this might
Yeah.
be something you'll do again and again and keep
Right.
repeating. Even with our 30-day boot camp, that's something we're saying to our clients that just aren't getting it or they're not ready for foot traffic. We're like, repeat boot camp. That will help you. Just keep going.
Yeah.
So train them that this could be repetitive and then
Yeah.
fine tune it every time when you relaunch. When you feel like you finally have found your groove, that's when it can become 12 months. Like that
Right. Okay.
last round for us just felt
Yeah.
like this is it. This is what we can
Yeah.
do. It's sustainable, it's scalable,
Yep.
etc.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So what I'd like to see you do, and this is something because you're in the program, you can come back to me, on our next call and show me, but I'd love to see, like, we call it benefits versus features. Like, what are the
Mm.
benefits of being in the program? But then the
Right.
big thing I want to see too is what are the features? And the features are like what you're going to give to them. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
So
are they
what basically what they get from it and then what I'm giving.
Yeah, yeah. Like what is the benefit of being in here? Less stressed, you're going to get
Yeah.
organized, you're going to get,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
More time with family. But what I'm going to promise to give to you is one call and like it's almost like the benefit comes from how I'm going to deliver it. One call a week, 3 times a week in the Facebook group,
Yeah.
whatever it is you're going to be doing.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking here at your other question. So, blueprint structure for the group program. Have you thought about the content? Will you drip it out? Will you do it live? What are you thinking?
So definitely drip it out
Okay.
because it's a type of thing that you like one thing sort of builds
Mm-hmm.
on the next thing,
Okay.
and then also like my ideal client is the type of mom who like wants to do everything, and so then it's going to be very overwhelming. So definitely drip it out. And so my thought was that I would do a 12-week program because I
Okay.
would say that in my own individual therapy clients, that's the amount of time that it takes to make some noticeable
Yeah.
change. So a 12-week program that I would have like around 6 clients,
Okay.
because that's in like traditional therapy world. If you're having a group, that would be the number of people you would have that you can give individual attention to, but then also have that sense of community.
Okay.
And so that I would be basically like an hour a week for the 12 weeks. And I would break up that time into sort of live teaching.
Okay.
Somebody gets a quote unquote hot seat, so that somebody would be able to basically have 2 hot seats
Yeah.
during the program, and then spend the rest of the time for like answering questions and sort of doing like
Yeah.
um, wrapping up and all that.
Yeah. One of my biggest tips with recording content is record it on Zoom. Even if you want it to be in the Facebook group, then let it
Yeah.
live stream in the Facebook group. But getting that nice recording on Zoom is so valuable for
Mm-hmm.
future repurposing, whatever
Right.
that looks like. Maybe
Right.
you do the 12 weeks. I've done this before. You do the 12 weeks and you're like, well, we try to fit everything in but the kitchen sink. And
Mm-hmm.
half the content needs to be stripped, and we need to go
Right.
deeper with 4 of the modules. Well, those
Right. Right.
other 8 modules that you removed, you can use them later as bonuses. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many things you could do, freebies down the road. So record everything and record it nice. Now, when I
Mm-hmm.
say Zoom, Be careful if you do Zoom meeting and everybody is there. It's going to be a lot harder to edit that in the future than if you did like a Zoom webinar where it was just by yourself, or a Zoom meeting where it was just you and they were in the Facebook group watching you.
Oh, okay. I see.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And Zoom webinar is a really nice feature. A lot of people don't want to do it because they're like, oh, it's $40 extra a month. If I told you that every single time you trained and you had that nice recording for years to come, $40 sounds like such a steal of a deal, right?
Yeah.
So don't let like, oh, another software slow you down. Okay. You said how to break down this blueprint into digestible pieces so I can focus and get it done. So you mean like, how am I going to create these 12 modules, or what are you thinking?
Yeah. So basically, like, what's the first thing that I need to start doing? Because like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going right to the content, but what's the first thing that I need to start with? What's the second thing, that piece? Okay.
Great question. So I like to think of things in content in terms of a book, which, you might be like, but I don't want to write a book. No. Like the book outline is the way that you write a book is the way that you write courses, right? Yeah. So first of all, think about it. With a book, you've got like this working title. It might not be the real title, but you kind of understand what the book is going to be about. The next step is writing down like the 7 ideas for the 7 chapters, right? You're going to have 12. So you're going to figure out what are the 12 things going to be. Now, when you start to write out those titles, again, working titles, it's just, you might even say, stress relief, right? Like it just might be something simple to remind yourself. Okay. So as you're getting those, you don't ever really start to go into the content until you've got the overview, the book title, the book chapters, and that's all done. Right. Because if you start to do it in order, you might run out of content. Like you have 4 weeks left and nothing else to talk about, or you only get through 8 of the things that you wanted to cover and you have so much more that you want to do. So I want you to start to think about like, well, and eventually it does become your book. That's the cool part about it is we all have a book in us, right? So if you can start to really map that out, it starts to become content that you speak on when you go on a podcast, when you go do a blog post, right? The best part is if this whole book is your like program, this becomes so much stuff that you can now start to seed and sell and redirect people back to, well, this is just one of the many things we talk about inside of XYZ, right? You're going to want to get in there to do this. So I think that could be a really good activity for you to do. And then it does become bite size. Because if you've got 12 topics, then you start to put a deadline to each of those topics, right? You can start to say, I want these first 2 done by month 1. These next 2 can be done by, etc. It also depends on your comfort level. Like some people would put these 12 dates on their calendar 12 weeks in a row and they'd start prepping the content a week before and showing up and just working through it. Some people are good like that. They're good under pressure. They were the people that would write the 15-page essay the day before it was due. They know they can do that. If you're the person that's like, no, I needed 3 months to do that thing, then yes, you better work ahead.
Okay. And so what about like more the like kind of logistical pieces of things in terms of like, okay, so that's how I'm going to break down the content and the program and all that stuff. But in terms of, getting the word out there and the marketing piece of it, what do you think needs to be, what needs to kind of happen first?
Okay. So if you've written your book, not the whole book, but ideas and chapters, right? You start brain dumping. Now all of a sudden you're like, okay, what is my content strategy going to be on all of my platforms, right? In all of my emails. And if it doesn't come from that book, you shouldn't be talking about it, right? So you'll see soon we're actually releasing a real book. And as we release our implementation code book, everything I talk about is going to be like picked and pulled from that book, leading back to the book itself, right? This can be worked with any product, any program, etc. So that's what I want you to start to do is brain dump some little tiny things that you could say. It would be a quote on Instagram. It might be a 5-minute YouTube video. There's so many things that you can start to do that are going to lead back to it. Okay. You see me seed all the time. When I say seed, I mean even just saying the word foot traffic formula, people are like, what's that, right? So if you did all these different videos or Instagram posts or whatever that platforms you're on, and you just talked about something or brought it back up, right now, what am I doing? I'm seeding foot traffic formula by interviewing a client from foot traffic formula, right? That's
Yeah.
content. Like
Right.
this is content. So you want to ask yourself, like, what could I be doing? What could
Hmm.
I, and people always say, like, but why would somebody, I can't believe somebody would come on and do this for free. And like, they don't know what you're going to say or what you're going to ask. I'm like, because they didn't have to pay for it and it's a win for
Right.
them. You're going to
Right.
have
Right.
clients that are going to be like, a free call, I'm in. Like,
Yeah.
yes, right? So,
Yeah.
just be thinking about like what are things people are going to want to hear and how does
Right.
it relate back to the thing you sell. Somebody
I
might
think
ask,
that,
yeah,
yeah. No, I was just going to say that, like, one of the things, like, as you're talking, that I'm thinking of is that people really have a hard time with, they don't know, like, what they're getting out of therapy or what they're getting out of coaching. So I'm thinking that it would be helpful to go live once a week. I have a Facebook group
yeah,
for this topic, to go live once a week and to do kind of like what we're doing right now, to do a mini coaching
totally.
session on there so that they can see, like, what are the actual tangible benefits, or what would it look like. Yeah. Okay.
100%. People are scared of coaching, right? They're like, but I don't know what to ask her. And then you watch
Yeah.
it and you're like, well, she pretty much has no problem taking the lead and bringing
Right.
up
Right.
questions, right? And then you're like,
Right.
oh, this
Right.
is not that hard.
Yeah.
Yes. Show
Okay.
them what it
Yeah.
looks like and take the
Right.
fear out of the unknown. So
Right.
good. I'm so glad you said
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and also, like, let's say you said, well, they would never want to share this publicly. There's ways that you can do it in a private
Mhm.
Facebook group
Mhm. Mhm.
or other things. So definitely
Right.
be thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to jump into pricing?
Yes.
Okay. So, what are your current thoughts on pricing? Are there struggles? Do you feel good about it? What are you thinking?
So I'm thinking that for this 12-week group coaching program, that I'll charge $9.97, and to do like a little, if you pay in full, you get this break, and
Okay.
then, or like a 3-month kind of pay, or 3 monthly payments. So that's where I feel comfortable with that. What are
Okay.
your thoughts about
Okay.
that?
So, you said 6 members at $1,000 for the three
Yeah.
months. Okay.
Yes.
So, my first thought is, and we're all different, but my
Right.
first thought is $6,000 divided by three, you're only getting $2,000 a month for this. Now,
Right.
you could have multiple groups. Like, my question is it scalable? If you're going to max out with one program at 6 people, $2,000 a
Right.
month probably isn't going to pay your bills. Don't you live in New York? Like, probably not happening.
Yeah. So
So,
my thought process was to do this first,
yeah,
because one of my one of my issues is that I want to do everything myself,
yes.
right? So I really want to, like, sort of test out the waters by doing it
Hmm.
this way, like at a price that's, sort of reasonable,
Yeah,
that people can afford, but then also having it be like a small group, so that I can, do the whole, like, okay, we'll get in for this price, because like the next price it's going to
yes,
be, 1997, or
totally.
whatever the case is. I just really kind of want to start
Yeah.
at something that I feel is doable, and then work on the scalable part.
Totally. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
There has to be a fine line. Like, I believe you are very valuable. You are great at what you do. You could charge a lot more than 997.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
they may not, a new person might not know that yet. So I do think
Yeah.
going with a price that you think is a good price for coaching, doable,
Right.
they're going to jump. Yes. Now,
Yeah.
another thing is, I always justify my time because you can't say $2,000 a month. Well, how many hours are you even putting into the
Exactly.
program, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And sometimes it's prep work. You might have to
Right.
put in the prep content in the beginning, but then the next round, you aren't doing it. So the
Exactly.
question I would be figuring out price wise is, okay, if I have to spend an hour a week, right,
Hmm.
on this program or whatever it's going to be, then I wouldn't go, it's not 2000 a month, it's really $500 a call. And I'm okay getting paid $500 for that call, right?
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the concept of, like, value pricing, as
Yes.
opposed to just, yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Okay.
sense.
So I
Yeah.
think you're good on the pricing with 997, knowing it
Hmm.
is going to be scalable. You can add
Yep.
more groups, you can raise your rate, and you feel good
Yep.
about it. A lot of people
Yep.
usually undercharge. So I think starting there for you is a great price. Knowing
Yeah.
6 people, they're going to get so much. I mean, that's a huge value for somebody looking for coaching.
Right. It works out to be about $82 and change a person,
Okay.
but times six for that hour.
Yeah.
So that is more than my regular rate for if I would meet one on one with
Perfect.
somebody. Yeah.
Perfect. So you kind of justified it that way. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, with that said, as you are increasing it, you'll start to find out the demand. When you all of a sudden fill 6 fast, you're like,
Yep.
okay, time to raise the
Yep.
quantity of people, time to
Right.
raise the rate, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
do you want to quickly, I know we don't have much time. Do you want to quickly talk about like I know you want to bring in something that's a little bit cheaper for somebody to
Hmm.
test you out because they might be like, Michelle, I don't know you. $1,000 is still a lot of money. So what are you
Right,
thinking
right.
you're going to do for a more inexpensive price point?
Yeah, so I don't, this is where I'm really kind
Okay.
of stuck because then the other thing that I offer is to do one-on-one sessions, but
Got it.
obviously that is more expensive.
Yes.
So I don't know if maybe the idea of a boot camp,
Yeah.
I really am kind
Are
of stuck at a
you
loss here.
are you participating in the foot traffic boot camp?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So remember how we started this
Right.
conversation? If you're
Yeah.
thinking about doing something, go try it out. So,
Hmm.
because you're in foot traffic formula, you can go, I'm not trying to sell you, you get access
Right.
to it. So, if I were
Right.
you, I would immediately get off this call and I would
Yeah.
jump in that boot camp and I would start observing what I've got going on and what is
Right. Right.
happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the second you can be like, oh, I see what she's doing, I see how she's doing this, it's warming
Right. Right.
people up. They're going to be a lot easier to sell into the next level when they've tried you out for a smaller price point.
Yeah. So here's my issue is that
Yeah.
so based on, my like home obligations, the individual clients I have, and then starting the group coaching program, I don't know if I can reasonably do something like as I'm talking, like do something like a boot camp. I don't know if potentially doing something like, like I don't know, like a mini course, like
Yeah.
something that is not going to take like me needing to show up alive to
Yeah.
do certain things that I
Yeah.
can sort of do when I have extra time that might be like a better option.
Yeah. So, great points.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. But here's what I want you guys to see. So the month of July, I did the boot camp, and
Hmm.
I'm live twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. But when
Right.
I do this again in August, what did I just tell you in the beginning? Those are recorded trainings.
Yeah.
I show up
Right.
live
Right.
once a week. So all of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
sudden, I put in the work up front, right? There's no such thing
Right.
as real passive income. There's always work
Yeah.
up front.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
put in the work up front in July, but I will reap those rewards of my July work every month in August and in September and so on,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah.
You can make it however you want to make it. So, for instance, even in August, I don't show up once a week live. I show up once a week live. A coach shows up. I show up 2 of those times, and then
Hmm.
somebody else shows up. You get to make it whatever you want to make it. So if you're like, I don't have
Right.
time, I don't have this. Well, what if there was a way you could create a boot camp and it was all pre recorded and it wasn't live
Hmm.
and it was daily
Right.
emails or whatever you want to do?
Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of the cheaper price point, if I have something at 997,
Mhm.
what needs to be the cheaper price point? I don't want to then make something for like, $27 and everybody's like, "Oh, let me just buy the cheap thing and not
Yeah.
splurge for the bigger thing." So what is kind of like a middle price point and something that people can say, like I can afford that and I'll like test her out.
Yeah. So I think first of all, cheaper price points are different depending on what your price points look like. So for
Right.
somebody like me, I don't need a $27 offer. 97
Right.
is my cheap price point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think with somebody like you, knowing like if they were to typically go in and have like one coaching session, it would cost X
Hmm.
amount of dollars. That
Right.
range is a great deal for somebody who gets to watch that video over and over again and have a workbook.
Right.
And you can pour more into a 1 hour session where you teach something you teach with a workbook and a
Right.
couple bonus videos than they would
Right.
ever get out of just one time.
Right.
But
So typically I would charge like about 200 for the hour.
okay. So
Yeah.
imagine if you charge, let's say this. Let's say your $97 offer was the no-brainer offer because typically you
Right.
do charge 200, so it's even cheaper, but you set it
Right.
up once and you never have to touch it again, right?
Right.
That could
Right.
be good for you. So why would somebody not buy the bigger thing? Because it's totally DIY. If they start
Hmm.
to like you, right? Somebody watching
Right.
this right now is like, I want her coaching me. Like, I want to be Michelle and get questions, right? So they start to
Yeah.
be like, I like this, but I want to go to the next level and I think she could
Right.
help me. And that's
Right.
what you want them to try.
Yeah. So then, okay, if I do like a $97 offer, what are ideas of things that I can offer in that price range that I can sort of, deal with it once and like not really be,
Yeah.
I really want to focus my energy on the group coaching program because that's where obviously I'm charging more. That's where my energy is going. So what's kind of like
Okay.
I don't want to say simple thing, but just sort of
Yeah.
an easier
So
thing.
I think for you specifically, I would probably do like a typical 1 hour session, which they're not
Hmm.
there. So
Right.
it's not like you're getting that conversation, but I would
Right.
come up with prompts and maybe
Yep.
a workbook to go along with it where they're like filling
Right.
this out, or, like they feel like they're getting their first session. But then I
Yeah.
would give a couple like bonus trainings inside to get them
Mhm.
excited and seed the bigger program.
Right,
Because
right. Kind
you
of like
could
this is
take,
what you would get if you went,
mhm.
yeah, right,
You could
right.
be like, so listen, so I have this program called, whatever it's called. And in
Yeah,
lesson 2, we talk about this. Now,
yeah.
right now, I'm going to teach you a little piece of it from lesson 2. And you could even, like, people make comments, this is all psychology and stuff, but people make comments like, now this is like a 3-hour training, and obviously in the 30 minutes I can't give you the whole 3 hours, but
Mhm.
I'm going to try to give you a good part of it or a good piece of it.
Right.
So people are all of a sudden like, oh, there's more. Like,
Yeah,
this is only 30 minutes. There's 3 hours over here.
right, right.
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense.
So everything comes back to like the book, right? Everything goes
Yeah,
back to what are we doing here?
right. So you're thinking recording, basically doing a recording and then selling that. What
Yeah.
what platform do you use to record that stuff?
I just do mine right on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you so that Zoom, if you get with Zoom webinar, then you can just make a recording and then people can
Hmm.
access it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and you don't need
Okay.
Zoom webinar to record yourself by yourself. It could just be
Oh.
Zoom, the platform.
Oh.
You would want
Okay.
it if your group clients were on and you didn't want to sell that later and have their
Right.
confidential stuff being talked about.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Michelle, I hope this was helpful.
Yes, very much. Thank
What is
you.
something that, like, I know it's a lot to be here and then everybody's watching too. Is there something that you're like, okay, I'm going to do this first, or I need to kind of head this direction? What's popping up for you right now?
I think the first thing is that I really need to kind of map out what it is that I'm going to be talking about,
Yeah.
because the thing of what I do is like I sort of talk about what things come up for that person in that
Hmm.
session. And I think I need to sit down and really pull out themes of like what are the common things, like of how
Yes.
people phrase it, what they say, and then what are the things that I'm saying like all the time over and over in terms of the solution or how to get to that point.
Yeah.
So really kind of like getting that down on paper because it's all in my head, and it comes out through conversation, but getting that down.
Yeah. Oh, I could not agree more, because that
Yeah.
becomes the content, the course, everything.
Right.
I love
Right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michelle, what is something you can say about, if anybody's thinking about foot traffic formula, thinking about maybe
Mhm.
jumping in, joining, is there anything you can say, or just something from your experience being in the program? Like, what has it helped you with?
So two things for sure. Definitely that it over delivers. So
Okay.
the other program that I was in before kind of under delivered, I guess is a nice way to say it.
Well, you went from
Um,
like one extreme to the next, I feel like. Like,
yeah,
they might have been
probably. And it was
normal and we go above and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely that whatever you're seeing or whatever you think that you're going to get, there's a billion times more things that are in there. It's even almost like to the point where I just don't have enough time to
Oh yeah.
access all the things that are available. And then the second thing is just literally that it makes me get out of my head and just actually
Mm,
do things. So
yeah.
that has been to me that's been like worth its weight in gold, because if I've had all these like amazing ideas and like want to do all this stuff,
Yeah.
but if it just stays in my head, like literally nobody hears about it, and then like what the hell is the point?
And you just keep thinking
And
about it 6 months later and you're like, yeah, still haven't done it,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have enjoyed having you in the program. We love seeing people take action to make those next steps to move forward. And you have definitely done that. You guys, Michelle, where could people find out about you if they're like, I kind of like this idea of this 6-week group program she's thinking about?
Yeah, so I have a Facebook group. It's called Manage Your Mom Guilt, and it is exactly about that title.
Perfect.
And then also, you can find me on Instagram, Mental Wellness for Mamas, MAMAS.
Amazing. You guys go check out Michelle. She's incredible. And if you want more details on foot traffic formula, go to foottrafficprogram.com. All right, Michelle, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks.